If you still haven't used your first wildcard, this is one of the best time to do so. As usual, we are starting in Go. As you can see, first of all, I've used less than 100 millions in this wildcard team. So you have some money in the bank. So if you want to do some little adjustments here and there, you are able to do so. So don't be afraid to change a little bit of the players. Maybe you disagree with some of my picks, so you'll be able to swap them. But for me, these 15 players are best suitable to get you through at least game week 19 and then maybe even after that. In goal, I'm opted for Areola and Leno. Areola is still the cheapest goalkeeper that is for sure playing, so he is in my team. He has a okay fixture run, and Leno has a pretty okay fixture run as well. They change pretty alright, and when one of them is having a tough fixture, the other one is having an easier one, so they are okay to be rotated if you like to do it. If you want to rely only on one of them, they are still good options, but in my opinion, for the combined price of 9 million, you can't go much better than that. Leno, he has been wonderful this season. 4.7. He was at some point one of the best goalkeepers in the league regarding points in the fantasy. But now he has dropped a little bit, but still he is far greater than many other options at the same price point. And Ariola starting at 4.0, he is already 4.3, but he's still, as already mentioned, the cheapest goalkeeper. Sam Johnston, Rob Sanchez, they are all right positions as well, but I have other players from those teams integrated in the side, so I'm not going to put them in the side. As you can see, I'm not going for a high-end goalkeeper such as Pope, Alisson Ederson. Alisson is a good option as well, but in my opinion, it's a waste to do a Liverpool player in goal. Maybe if you have the money and don't want to bring in another outfield player from Liverpool, Alisson is nailed. He is keeping the clean sheets. He is good one-on-one, but they're becoming better and better each game week, so it's difficult to get some save points from them. Especially in game week 13, it's a game against Manchester City, and it's never a good thing to start with a bad score after a wild card. So in my opinion, you should go just without Alisson. At least I will if I'm using wildcard now, but Areola and Leno are pretty alright. Other options, I don't like them as much. Turner is no longer playing, so for now, Areola and Leno make my goalkeepers pair. To be perfectly honest with you guys, I had a pretty tough time choosing the defense. It was a little bit tricky. A lot of teams are having meh fixtures. Manchester City defense is okay, but it's not at its best. Other teams, such as Manchester United, I'm just not too comfortable with it. Aston Villa are shaky. Spurs are shaky. So I had a little bit of difficulties choosing these 5 players, but I have my reasoning behind it. Tsimikas 4.7. Robertson is injured up until the new year, so Tsimikas is going to play most of the time. He's cheap enough so you can bench him in tougher fixtures, but he's okay to be playing in the easier ones. And Liverpool are having an okay fixture run after Manchester City, so you can play Tsimikas week in and week out. So yeah, he's okay there. Trent was another option, but he's too expensive and he's not returning as much as I would like him to return. So that's a little bit tricky there. But Tsimikas 4.7, he got 2 assists against Brentford, a clean sheet. He got a big haul that game week, so he's a very good option. Trippier 7.0, I mean, Trippier for me is a very good player, even though Newcastle were leaky a little bit in defense right now, and they have a lot of injuries. Trippier is ever present in their side. He is most of the time their captain when Waseos is not playing. He's on some set pieces, he's taking shots, he's taking crosses. So I believe attacking returns and clean sheets are going to come his way. Yeah, he has a couple of difficult fixtures, but after that it's a green run. And even in those hard fixtures, Newcastle are capable of a clean sheet. So I mean, if you're going to expensive defender to be in your side, Trippier is your guy. 7.0, a pretty good player to be owned right now. Gabriel 4.8 is a pretty interesting player. Here I had choices between Ben White, Saliba or Gabriel. I opted for Gabriel to save the money, but you can easily go to Saliba or Ben White if you want to do it and if you have the free money. Arsenal are having a not a mixed, but more on the easier side of fixture run. So a defender from their side is pretty much an okay thing to have. I am planning to invest in a defender in my real side from Arsenal. So if you are on a wild card right now, I believe you should do that as well. Gabriel is the cheapest of the bunch. He was the most popular player at the start of the season. Now he is the cheapest, but he is playing. Timber is out injured, so Gabriel is just picked. Kivior is playing in Europe and in the Cups, so Gabriel is the guy to be starting in the Prem. So 4.8, you can go wrong there. In the harder fixtures, you can just bench him. The last guy playing here is Cowell. I know he has a little bit of an issue right now, but at 4.6 after 2 game weeks, Chelsea are having a pretty good fixture run, and Cowell is ever present. He is cheap, he is reliable, he is always there on the set pieces, missing some chances, but I believe soon enough he's going to score a goal or make an assist, and you reap the rewards from that. 4.6, you cannot go too wrong with him. Options from Brighton were here, but they have a lot of difficulties keeping a clean sheet now, so I did not pick them. And the final guy here is Charles Taylor, 4.0 for Burnley. Burnley are having a pretty good run of fixtures, and if they were to win some points, I would bet that they will do it in that run, because if they don't, they are going to be relegated, and Charles Taylor in that defense is a great option. Maybe if you want to bench 2 of the defenders, Charles Taylor is even an option. I wouldn't recommend it, and I would be playing even Tsimikas or Cowell most of the weeks. But if you feel confident enough and if they start racking up better results, Charlie Taylor is going to be a great option. Most of the time I will be playing Tsimikas, Trippier and one of the Gabriel and Cowell, whoever has the better fixture run. But if, for example, in game week 13 Tsimikas is playing Manchester City, I'll be playing Trippier, Gabriel and Cowell. Even though Cowell is having a tough fixtures, it's not as tough as City away for Liverpool. So I will have a dilemma here to make. If I'm going to play Tsimikas, he can make an assist, or just rely on a clean sheet run from all of the other defenders. It's up to you if you do it that way. As already mentioned, some of the other teams like Brentford, they're having a blank game week and their defenders are not as good as they were last season. Brighton are not too comfortable if Estupinian is playing. Maybe he is an option, maybe not. Spurs right now, they're without Romero and Van den Ven, so it's pretty tough for them. Aston Villa are not too comfortable in defense and they face City and Arsenal pretty soon, so it's going to be tough keeping Aston Villa defender. The other players, I just don't like them. So yeah, those 5 defenders make up my defense. I want to hear your opinion on my defense. Put down in the comments what you think about the defense. Who are you going to buy if you're in a wildcard team for sure. But now let's swiftly move into midfield because I have a pretty interesting selection of players there. In midfield, I've opted for 5 players from 5 different sides. Most of the players already exist in my squad. The teams that I picked, basically everyone exists, so I am just doubling up on the players who has the better fixture run. Let's start with Salah. Salah is the guy with the most points right now in the fantasy, and for me, he should be ever present in every side basically. He can score against anyone, and he can miss against anyone, so he is hit and miss in some games, but most of the time he returns points, and for me, he is a very viable captain option in most of the game weeks. So 13 million, it's a lot of money to be invested in. But if you don't own, let's say, Bruno or Son, I don't see why you shouldn't go for Salah. There isn't an expensive player right now that is more interesting than him. And even if you own Son or Fernandes, I would drop someone else and not drop Salah. Salah for me should be the first player in your starting lineup. Bukayo Saka, he's the golden boy. I mean, I'm not going without him. Let's be honest, he is a very good player. He is very solid. I like how he plays. I like how he takes the penalties sometimes. I like that he's a 90-minute player. I like that he is starting basically every game week. So Saka at 8.6, you cannot go wrong with him, at least in my opinion. So I'm picking Saka if I were you as well. Bowen, a pretty good player. He's one of the guys in form right now in the Prem, and West Ham are having a pretty good fixture run going forward. So, I mean, Bowen is going to get a lot of points, and if you don't own him, you risk missing a lot of points. For me, Bowen is going to be a strong player. He's on scoring goals with his head. He's scoring from the counter-attacks, on slow build-ups, away from home, started scoring at home. So with that price point, he is a very good shout-out. He's having an away fixture to Burnley in game week 13, so he is even a very viable captain option for that game week. So I wouldn't go past him if I were you. And now I have two players that are pretty interesting. I'm opting for Gordon and Palmer. They're pretty cheap, and I mean, you can go for Mbomo, you can go for Mitoma, you can go for many other players, but for me, Palmer being on penalties and Chelsea turning their fixture run upside down in a couple of game weeks and Kunku returning soon to the side, I believe that Palmer is going to get even more accustomed to their play style, and for me, he's going to get a lot of points going forward. So for me, Palmer should be present in your side. At 5.2, he can be left on the bench with the attacker's rotation I am going to showcase to you in a minute. But even Gordon can be left on the bench if you don't believe that Newcastle are going to win that fixture. For me, it's pretty risky to leave such an attacking player on the bench, but it's up to you. And if you buy the right players, you can just drop them. So Gordon and Palmer wrap up the team. As you can see, I'm missing a Spurs player here. Without Madison, I don't like how they attack. Son is, as always, a pretty good option, but without Madison, his chances are limited. Richarlison is out of the side, so it's basically Kulusevski, Brennan Johnson, and Son each game week. And I'm not too familiar with how they are going to link up. It's basically a whole new lineup in front compared to Madison, Richarlison, Son. And Kulusevski was there before, but now it's basically Kulusevski, Son, Brennan Johnson, and another midfielder without Madison. So it's tough. Their defenders are not up to par. It's difficult to own a Spurs player right now. The Manchester United boys, I own Bruno Fernandes, but they are not reliable. You cannot expect a lot of points from them each game week. While Palmer being 5.2, you don't expect a lot of points from him each game week, but he provides a lot. He's scoring penalties, he's taking them, he's scoring goals from open play, so he is a very, very good option, and I'm tempted to go soon enough for him. But for now, if you're on a wild card, for me having Gordon and Palmer, you can deploy a 4-4-2, a 3-5-2, a 3-4-3. You are as flexible as possible. So Palmer and Gordon can stay on the bench. The other two players are playing each and every game week because they're talismanic, let's say. But even now, Gordon with so many injuries in the Newcastle side and Palmer being on penalties, they can be considered talismanic as well. So those five midfielders are a pretty strong selection. And I believe with the forward line that I'm going to showcase to you in a minute, that team is going to get you a lot of points. So without further ado, let's jump into the forward line. Before discussing the forward line, if you enjoy such type of content and want to see more, or if you enjoy my point of view regarding fantasy, subscribe to the channel. Your help is very much appreciated. Like the video, leave down a comment, all of those good stuff. But now let's discuss the forward line. Haaland, he is now injured coming off from international duty, and he is a doubt against Liverpool. But he has such a strong physique and such a good health record, so he's going to be back in no time. I believe that he's going to play against Liverpool for sure. So 14 million, it's a strong investment, but he's a very good player. So going without Haaland is pretty risky. I'm doing the No Haaland project, by the way. If you want to see some of it, just go into my channel and see how I'm doing with the No Haaland project. But personally, it's a pretty risky strategy, and if you are not a player to take such risks, just pick Haaland. Don't try to get differential, just go with him. But the other players here are a little bit more interesting. Let's discuss Archer. Archer is the best enabler forward, but he has a pretty good fixture on the next two game weeks. So in that period of time, you can bench Palmer and Gordon, or one of them, just to pick Archer in the side. So that's the rotations that I was referring to. And after that, when they have a pretty good fixture run, you just put Archer on the bench and to be a fewer for your side and just go without playing him. But for now, you can have a great option of picking Archer. He is playing good. Most of their attackers are now injured, so he's going to be ever present there. He may even take some penalties here and there if they keep getting injured, the penalty takers. So I believe Archer is a pretty good shout out for such a low price point. And the last guy here is Dominic Solanke. Solanke is a typical Premier League mid-table striker. He scores goals from penalties, he scores goals from open plays. He reminds me a lot of Mitrovic, of Ivan Toney, maybe not as good as them, but if Bournemouth are scoring, he is involved for sure. And at 6.4, with such a good fixture run coming for Bournemouth, it's hard to avoid Solanke. So if I were you, I would be highly considering Solanke. At 6.4, you can even bench him if you like, and you can play 4-5-1 without Solanke and Archer. It's up to you. But for me, going without two of your forwards is pretty risky. But for me, Solanke is a pretty good player. As you can see, I'm omitting Nketiah because he had a little bit of injury problems, and I'm omitting Alvarez and Watkins. They have a pretty tough fixture run going forward, and they are not expected to return as many points. If you want to go without an Aston Villa player, this is the lineup for you. But if you want to not risk it, you can just pick Diaby or Watkins and replace whoever you want in your side here, because you have the money to do so, most of it. So yeah, it's risky right now, but it's pretty easy to go back to the Aston Villa players. For me, those 15 players are going to get you through the 6 or 7 game weeks before you can activate the second wildcard if this goes horribly wrong. Sorry. When Haaland is having a blank, you have enough players to fill in the gaps, so don't be afraid to just attack the fixtures. And with those teams selected in here, you can attack a lot of the fixtures. Neto is a great shout out in goal, but for me, Leno and Tario are just better. I missed talking about him during the goalkeeper section. But yeah, I believe that this wraps up the team. If you enjoyed it, as always, subscribe to the channel, like it, write down in the comment section. But now, guys, I'll be heading out. Bye!